Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. And this continues to be the space for the hidden seekers who are seeking to remove the blocks that hold them back from their purpose so they can manifest abundance through it. Welcome to Monday Magic, my favorite day of the week. As always, I'm excited to bring to you my intuitive sense on the energy, what we're experiencing, and some tips on how to navigate it. So, how's everybody feeling? I know this past week was not terrible, not anything super exciting. We had a few minor solar flares, lots of C-class flares, some of them on the higher side, very few M-class solar flares, a little bit of activity in the Schumann resonance, but again, nothing to write home about. We had two projected CMEs. Both of those were kind of a dud. And that's very indicative of how this past week went. A lot of busyness, a lot of potential, and not a lot of oomph behind it. It was not a terrible week. Again, like I said, very, very busy, but just kind of ho-hum as far as the output. And so it has felt like we had a lot of clarity coming in last weekend. We have been or had been in many weeks of uncertainty prior to that. And so last weekend, it was nice to kind of get some insight, some clarity as Mercury came out of the cazimi with the sun. Our minds came back online. We became connected to source again. But this week, it feels like some of that clarity has waned, and I don't feel like it's gone away necessarily, but I think that there's integration now. There is time to realign, time to adapt. That while the clarity of how we're moving forward or what we're moving towards has come through, we aren't quite able to fully step into it. That it requires fulfilling commitments to things that we have already committed to in the past, or a time of transition to phase out one phase or stage or activity, and before we can move into the other. And it feels like we're still somewhat sifting through the options that, and I've talked about sifting in the recent weeks, but that we're still sort of, it's like a taste test is really what felt the analogy that felt most important as far as what was coming through is, yes, we've got this clarity. This is where we're going. This is how it's, a little bit of, I guess, the flavor or maybe the outline. I'm seeing sort of like the aura. We can see the aura of the future, but we don't have clarity on the details. And so it's still a process of taste testing and saying, yes, I really like this thing. No, I really don't like that thing. Oh, I've already committed to this thing. I need to phase it out. So how can I taste test my way through that transition and make it fair for everyone involved? Um, there was definitely a strong call to action, or I'm sorry, a strong call to rest the last couple of days. Some pretty serious fatigue hit on Saturday. And yesterday I woke up with very clear guidance: rest. Today is the day of rest. Be still, listen. And so I did do that. Of course, having to forego some of the things on the to-do list. But it was necessary, especially after a very busy week last week, and then what looks like is going to turn out to be a very busy week this week as well. So it does kind of have that quality of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, receiving guidance, but then having to realign or transition or integrate. And the guidance that came through is that realignment takes time. It's not, we can't just, close the door to all these old things and jump into something new, that we're going to have to wrap up these old commitments. We can't just quit the things that we are leaving behind. There is a transition time. And the recent sifting will continue throughout that process, that we get to continuously taste test as we go along and say, I want to bring some of this along, or I don't, or I want a little bit more of this other thing and I want a little less of that other thing. And so we get to choose the flavor that we want. And there is also very strong guidance around this delicate balance between using the power that we have been given as creators and the ability to make choice through free will, and yet at the same time surrendering to the will of the divine, right? So thy will be done. And yet within that, there is room for us to choose, and we are asked to step into the power and authority and sovereignty that we are gifted. So it can feel like we went back to the waiting room a little bit, yet we have more faith and more hope this time, because we had that glimpse of the future. We had the glimpse of the clarity. And so sometimes it can feel like feeling your way through the dark, but yet we have that reminder of support, new connection. And it's almost as if the divine had to pull away. Mercury cazimi basically means the sun and Mercury are aligned, and the sun burns out the planet that it is cazimi with. And so our ability to connect to source was challenged. And it's an interesting factor to ponder and just ask why is that even necessary? And why did we have to go through all of these machinations of trying on all of these different scenarios and saying, well, if I did it this way, maybe it would work better for me that way. Or maybe if I add a little of this and add a little of that and take some of this away and take some of that away, it allowed us to really sift through the sand and find the gold and figure out where our priorities are, what's most important, and what we're moving into. So now that we have at least that glimpse of possibility, we have enough energy to drive forward towards the future. The few weeks prior, end of June into early July, were pretty tough, not having any clarity, and really feeling the squeeze and the pressure to get it figured out. There's not that squeeze and pressure feeling anymore. It's just sort of a sifting feeling now, that taste test kind of feeling. So as far as the guidance that came through, not a lot this week relative to most weeks. Keeping our thoughts, negative thoughts at bay, or doubt, or especially for those of you who enjoy the other content throughout the week, looking at the traumatized nervous system, or a system, our being, that is conditioned and programmed to the survival mechanisms because of the way of the world today, that comes with it a very strong tendency towards negative thinking, or always looking for what's wrong. And so the guidance is, don't do that. Look for what is right. Have no doubt. Remember that we have the best sugar daddy in the entire universe, and really keep your eyes on the divine and just stay focused on the faith and the trust, and the reminder that the clarity brought us, that we are supported, we are guided. And then the last piece of advice that was offered was pursue health. It was very interesting, this extreme fatigue that came through Saturday and Sunday, the strong guidance for rest. It's very much pointing to the need to strengthen, to be clear, to detox, to release in any way, so that we are strong in mind and body, that they are hand in hand. Obviously, there's well-known documented science that the vast majority of our immune system is in our gut. So if we're constantly putting in toxins, our body is not able to get ahead of the healing process. We are reactive instead of proactive. And so we want to stop subjecting the body to anything that causes it harm. And that will strengthen us, not only physically, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So that's what I have for you today, a little bit on the shorter side. We're still, feeling through the dark, like I said, just kind of figuring it out, but driving forward with plenty of momentum, and some hope and reassurance of our support and connection, right? Connection is everything. Without that, it felt much more challenging. So at least we have the connection, and it's good things are coming. It's still all very beautiful. Whatever is coming your way for you, I know what's coming my way for me is absolutely profoundly gorgeous. And enjoy the journey, right? Create ways to enjoy the journey along the way. And if you're not enjoying it, you are misaligned. And so we want to find that alignment, so that we are not driving towards some future goal, which will always be postponed, because that's the way of the human. We want to cultivate joy, find our joy compass, and follow that bliss now. Granted, there's always going to be effort required. There's always going to be parts of it we don't enjoy. And that's not what we're saying here. But finding alignment, once you find alignment, you will know in your heart and soul the truth of what is right for you, and being on the right path, and how that full body yes is undeniable, and no one can challenge that. All right. I love you, my friends. Drink lots of water, focus on your health, get rested for whatever's coming, and keep reminding yourself you have the best sugar daddy in the entire universe. All right. Take care.